For his bravery, she gave him the impossible. The heart of a princess. The crash landing had destroyed most of Zephyr Blackwood's ship, leaving him stranded on an alien world with nothing but his standard-issue survival pack and the broken remains of his emergency beacon. The planet's atmosphere, a swirling mass of violet and teal, hung heavily over the horizon, illuminated by twin suns that cast everything in a strange, ethereal glow. "Universe has a sick sense of humor," he muttered, wiping sweat from his brow as he surveyed the wreckage. His interstellar scout vessel, once the pride of the Terran exploration fleet, was now little more than twisted metal embedded in the soft, luminescent soil. 3 days had passed since the crash, and Zephyr had already established that the local flora wasn't immediately toxic. The strange, translucent fruits that grew on crystalline trees sustained him, though they left a tingling sensation on his tongue for hours afterward. He'd seen no sign of sentient life, but something about this place felt deliberately crafted, too perfect to be natural. On the 4th day, as Zephyr attempted to repair his communications array, he heard it, a sound like chimes carried on the wind, followed by footsteps too light to be human. He reached for his pulse pistol, keeping it low as he turned. What he saw made him question his sanity. A woman stood before him, but unlike any he'd encountered across 17 planetary systems. Her skin shimmered with an inner light, like moonlight through thin ice. Her eyes were pools of liquid silver, and her hair, if you could call it that, was a cascade of luminescent strands that seemed to float around her head as though underwater. "You are not of Lumina," she said, her voice musical and clear. "Yet you breathe our air without protection." Zephyr kept his weapon ready but didn't raise it. "Didn't exactly plan on being here. My ship malfunctioned near your orbit." He gestured to the wreckage. "As you can see." She stepped closer, seemingly unconcerned by his weapon. "I am Talia, sovereign daughter of the Luminari High Council." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "And you have arrived at a most fortuitous moment, outsider." "Zephyr," he corrected. "Zephyr Blackwood. And forgive me if I don't see what's so fortuitous about being stranded on an unknown planet." Talia's lips curved into what might have been a smile. "Perhaps fortuitous for me, then. My world stands on the precipice of destruction. The Luminari have kept peace for 10 millennia, but General Vex and his faction have seized control of our capital city. They seek to harness the planet's core energy to fuel weapons of unimaginable power." Zephyr holstered his weapon with a sigh. "Look, Your Highness, or whatever the proper address is. I'm just trying to find a way home. Your political problems aren't exactly my concern. And yet," she continued, unperturbed, "you possess skills we lack. You understand technology that we have deliberately avoided. The Luminari chose a path of harmony with our world rather than dominion over it." She gestured to his ship. "But Vex has discovered ancient technology buried beneath our crystal cities, weapons left by those who came before. He knows not how to fully control them, but his experiments grow more dangerous by the day." "Still not seeing how this concerns me," Zephyr replied, though his interest was piqued. Talia's expression hardened, her inner light dimming slightly. "Because, Zephyr Blackwood, your ship was not damaged by mere chance. Vex has activated planetary defense systems that target any approaching vessels. You were fortunate to survive at all. That got his attention." "You're saying he shot me down?" "In a manner of speaking. And unless he is stopped, no ship will ever leave Lumina again, including any rescue vessel that might respond to your beacon, should you ever repair it." Zephyr cursed under his breath. It was a familiar position, being roped into someone else's war simply because he had the misfortune of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But something about Talia's directness appealed to him. "No manipulation, just facts." "What exactly are you proposing, princess?" "I am not a princess," she corrected. "Sovereign daughter is our term. And I propose an alliance. Help me infiltrate the capital and disable Vex's control over the ancient systems. In return, my people will help repair your vessel." Zephyr crossed his arms. And if I refuse? Then you are welcome to continue your repairs alone. But know that Vex forces patrol these outer regions regularly. They will find you eventually. He took a moment to study her. Despite her otherworldly appearance, there was something unmistakably honest in her silver eyes. Either she was telling the truth, or she was the most convincing liar he'd encountered in all his travels. Fine, he finally said. But I want your word that your people will help me leave once this is done. Talia placed a hand over her chest, a gesture he assumed was their equivalent of an oath. You have my word, Zephyr Blackwood. And the word of a sovereign daughter is bound by the very energy that flows through our world. That's reassuring, I guess. He gathered his survival pack and weapon. So, what's the plan? I assume you didn't just stumble across me by accident. The Luminari are connected to this world in ways you cannot comprehend. I sensed your arrival the moment your ship entered our atmosphere. She pointed toward a distant mountain range that glimmered like cut gemstones in the strange light. The capital lies beyond those crystal peaks. Vex believes me to be in hiding among the outer settlements, but I have allies within the city who have prepared for our arrival. And how exactly do we get there? That looks like a considerable hike. For the first time, Talia's expression softened into something resembling amusement. We travel as the Luminari do. She extended her hand, palm up. If you trust me. Zephyr hesitated, his years of exploration had taught him caution. But stranded as he was, with limited options, what choice did he really have? He took her hand, surprised by its warmth. He'd expected the cool touch of crystal, but her skin felt almost human, save for the subtle vibration of energy beneath the surface. This may be disorienting for you, she warned. Before he could ask what she meant, the world around them began to shimmer. Zephyr felt a sensation like being pulled in every direction at once, not painful, but profoundly unsettling. The landscape blurred into streaks of light, and for a moment, he could have sworn he saw the very fabric of reality fold in on itself. When everything solidified again, they stood on a crystalline outcropping overlooking a vast city that seemed to have been grown rather than built. Spires of translucent material rose from the ground in organic patterns, each glowing with internal light of varying colors. In the center stood what could only be described as a palace, a massive structure that appeared to be a single, enormous crystal, faceted and perfect. Zephyr doubled over, fighting a wave of nausea. A little warning next time, he gasped. I did warn you, Talia said simply. The Luminari can traverse the meridian lines of the planet, what you might call energy conduits. It is how we have always traveled. As Zephyr straightened, he noticed dark areas in the otherwise radiant city, sections where the natural glow had been extinguished, replaced by harsh, artificial lighting. Even from this distance, he could see military-style installations that looked entirely out of place among the organic architecture. Those dark zones, he said, I'm guessing that's where your General Vex has set up shop. Talia nodded, her expression grim. The heart of our world is being corrupted. The crystal nexus beneath the central palace contains energy that has sustained us for millennia. Vex seeks to weaponize it. And what exactly am I supposed to do about that? I'm a scout, not a soldier. You understand technology in ways we do not. My people rejected such paths long ago. But now. She paused, her silver eyes reflecting the twin suns. Now we need someone who can think as our enemy does. Zephyr sighed heavily. So I disable some alien tech I've never seen before, help you overthrow a military coup, and then I get to go home. Simple. Nothing about this will be simple, Zephyr Blackwood, Talia said, her voice carrying an edge of steel beneath its musical quality. But should you succeed, the Luminari will offer you a reward beyond your imagination. I don't need rewards, princess, sorry, sovereign daughter. I just want off this planet. Talia turned to face him fully, her inner light pulsing slightly brighter. All beings desire something beyond mere survival, Zephyr. Even you. Perhaps especially you. Before he could question what she meant, a distant explosion shook the ground beneath them. Smoke rose from one of the crystal spires, black against the violet sky. Vex grows more desperate, Talia said. We must move quickly. My allies await us in the lower city. As they began their descent toward the gleaming metropolis, Zephyr couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just been manipulated into something far more dangerous than a simple rebellion. There was something in Talia's eyes when she'd mentioned rewards, a knowledge that unsettled him. But it was too late for second thoughts now. The path ahead led only into the heart of a war on an alien world, with his only guide a woman made of light and crystal who spoke of impossible things as if they were commonplace. Just another day in the life of an interstellar scout, he thought bitterly. At least this time the locals were pretty. The crown of stars. The battle for Lumina's crystal nexus had been unlike anything Zephyr had witnessed across 17 planetary systems. General Vex's forces, Luminari who had embraced technology and weaponized their natural connection to the planet, had fought with desperate ferocity. But in the end, it was Zephyr's understanding of the ancient technology, combined with Talia's innate connection to the planet's energy currents, that had turned the tide. Now, standing in the central chamber of the restored palace, Zephyr felt distinctly out of place. The room was a perfect dome carved from a single, massive crystal, refracting light in patterns that seemed to shift with the emotions of those present. Around him stood the remaining members of the Luminari High Council, their luminescent forms even more imposing than Talia's. The outsider has fulfilled his promise, announced Elder Kalen, his voice resonating through the chamber like the toll of a distant bell. Lumina breathes freely once more. Zephyr shifted uncomfortably under the collective gaze of the council. About our arrangement, he began, I've spent 2 weeks helping secure your city. My ship is being restored as we speak, Talia interrupted, stepping forward from the semicircle of elders. Her appearance had changed since their victory, her inner light now pulsed with a steady, commanding glow that made her seem more regal than before. The Luminari honor their word, Zephyr Blackwood. Great, he said, trying not to sound too eager to leave. Despite everything, Lumina remained alien to him, beautiful, certainly, but not home. Then I guess this is goodbye. A murmur passed through the council members, a sound like crystal chimes in the wind. Not quite yet, said Talia. There remains the matter of your reward. Zephyr shook his head. I told you before, getting off this planet is reward enough. Elder Kalen's light dimmed slightly in what Zephyr had come to recognize as amusement. The sovereign daughter speaks of something beyond mere transportation, human. Your actions have preserved a civilization that has existed for 10 millennia. Such service cannot go unmarked. Talia approached him, her movements fluid and graceful. In her hand she carried what appeared to be a circlet made from some material he couldn't identify, not quite metal, not quite crystal, but something that seemed to exist between states of matter. This is the crown of stars, she said, her voice softer now. Forged in the heart of Lumina's crystal nexus from the very essence of our world. I'm not really a crown person, Zephyr said, trying to inject some levity into the increasingly solemn atmosphere. It is not merely an ornament, Talia explained. The crown of stars grants its bearer a connection to the cosmic meridians that span not just Lumina, but the space between worlds. Zephyr's brow furrowed. What exactly does that mean? It means, Zephyr Blackwood, said Elder Kalen, that you would never again be bound by conventional travel. The crown would allow you to traverse the universe as we traverse our world, along the energy currents that connect all things. The implications hit Zephyr like a physical blow. Instant travel across vast distances? The ability to go anywhere in the universe without a ship? It seemed impossible. There must be a catch, he said, eyeing the crown with newfound suspicion. Talia nodded. The crown exists in symbiosis with its bearer. It would become part of you, changing you in ways we cannot fully predict. Your physiology is not luminary. Changing me how? Your perception would expand. You would see the universe as we see lumina, as networks of energy rather than discrete locations. In time, your physical form might begin to adapt to better channel these energies. Zephyr took an instinctive step back. You're saying I'd become like you? Not exactly, Talia said. The transformation would be unique to you. But yes, you would no longer be entirely human. The chamber fell silent as Zephyr processed this information. Part of him was tempted, the explorer in him salivated at the thought of unlimited travel, of seeing corners of the universe no human had ever witnessed. But another part, the part that still remembered Earth's sunsets and the feel of rain on his skin, recoiled at the thought of sacrificing his humanity. Why offer this to me? He finally asked. Surely it would be more valuable to one of your own people. The crown chooses its bearer, said Elder Kalen. It has been dormant for centuries, awaiting one who could bridge worlds as you have done. Talia's silver eyes met his. You need not decide immediately. The shipwrights will complete their work within 3 days. Until then, consider our offer. Zephyr nodded, his mind racing with possibilities and fears in equal measure. The garden outside the palace was quiet save for the crystalline chimes that hung from tree branches, swaying in the gentle breeze. Zephyr sat on a bench made from the same translucent material as everything else in the city, watching as the twin suns began their slow descent. I thought I might find you here, came Talia's voice from behind him. Zephyr didn't turn. Just needed some space to think. She sat beside him, her light casting subtle patterns across the garden floor. And what have your thoughts revealed? That I'm not cut out to be some sort of interdimensional traveler, he said with a half-smile. I'm just a scout, Talia. I map new worlds, I don't remake myself into something else to explore them. She was quiet for a moment. May I ask why you became a scout? There must be safer professions among your people. Zephyr chuckled. Probably. I signed up after my parents died. Figured there wasn't much keeping me on Earth anymore. He glanced at her. What about you? Did you always know you'd be, whatever a sovereign daughter is? It is not a position one is born to, she explained. I was selected after demonstrating an unusually strong connection to Lumina's energy currents. The role is part leader, part guardian. So neither of us really chose our paths. Perhaps not initially, she conceded. But we choose what to do with the paths we find ourselves on. They sat in companionable silence for a while, watching as the garden's plants responded to the changing light, closing some crystalline petals and opening others. I've been thinking about what you said, Zephyr finally admitted. About the crown changing me. I'm not sure I want that. Talia nodded. I understand. The unknown is frightening. It's not just that. He turned to face her fully. I've spent 5 years exploring the universe, seeing new worlds, meeting new species. But through it all, I've remained human. It's the lens through which I experience everything. And you fear losing that perspective. Yeah. Exactly. Talia's expression grew thoughtful. There is another possibility. One the council would not approve of me sharing. Zephyr raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. The crown of stars is not the only gift Lumina could offer you. She hesitated. There is something else, something perhaps more suited to your nature. Which is? A fragment of the crystal nexus itself. Small enough to be incorporated into your ship's systems, but powerful enough to enhance its capabilities beyond anything your people have achieved. Zephyr's eyes widened. You mean like a new power source? More than that. It would allow your ship to detect and navigate the same energy currents the crown would grant you access to. Not instantaneous travel, but faster than any method you currently possess. And you would remain entirely yourself. Why didn't you offer this in the first place? Talia's light dimmed slightly. Because the Council believes such technology should not leave Lumina. After what General Vex attempted, they fear what other species might do with our world's energy. But you're willing to go against them? Why? She was silent for a long moment. Because I have seen your heart, Zephyr Blackwood. You risked everything for a world not your own, for people you had no obligation to help. Such nobility deserves recognition. Zephyr looked away, uncomfortable with the praise. I just did what anyone would have done. No, she said firmly. You did not. Many would have sought only to repair their ship and leave us to our fate. He couldn't argue with that. So this crystal fragment, it would just make my ship faster? And more resilient. It would draw energy from the cosmic meridians themselves, allowing you to travel farther than ever before without refueling. You would be able to explore regions of space currently beyond your reach. The prospect was tantalizing. And all I have to do is turn down the fancy crown? The crown has chosen you, but the choice remains yours. I merely offer an alternative that might better align with your desires. Zephyr stood and walked to the edge of the garden, where the view opened up to reveal the entire crystal city below, now fully restored to its luminescent glory. In the 3 weeks since he'd crashed on this planet, he'd fought alongside these people, learned their ways, even begun to understand their unique perspective on the universe. But Earth still called to him, not as a home perhaps, but as a touchstone, a reminder of who he was. I'll take the crystal, he decided, turning back to Talia. If you're willing to risk the Council's displeasure. She stood and joined him at the garden's edge. I am. But there is one condition. Of course there is, he said with a resigned smile. What is it? That you return to Lumina someday. Not as a savior or a warrior, but as a friend. The request surprised him. You want me to come back? Why? Talia's inner light pulsed with an emotion he couldn't quite identify. Because in all my years as sovereign daughter, I have never encountered anyone quite like you, Zephyr Blackwood. Your perspective interests me. There was something in her silver eyes that made him wonder if there was more to her request than professional curiosity. But he didn't press the issue. I think I can manage that, he agreed. Especially with a souped-up ship. Her expression brightened. Then it is settled. I will bring the crystal to your vessel before your departure. As they walked back toward the palace, Zephyr felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He wasn't being asked to change who he was, only to carry a piece of Lumina with him on his continued journey through the stars. And perhaps, someday, to bring that piece back to its source. 3 days later, Zephyr stood before his repaired ship, marveling at the luminary craftsmanship. The once damaged hull now gleamed with an iridescent quality, reinforced with materials he'd never seen before. At its heart, carefully integrated into the engine systems, was a crystal no larger than his palm that pulsed with an inner light remarkably similar to Talia's. The sovereign daughter herself stood nearby, watching as he completed his final pre-flight checks. The navigation systems have been calibrated to work with the crystal, she explained. It will guide you along the meridians automatically. Zephyr nodded, running his hand along the ship's hull. It's beautiful work. Your people could teach ours a thing or two about engineering. Perhaps someday there will be such an exchange of knowledge, Talia said. When you return. He turned to face her. I gave my word, didn't I? Though I can't promise when. Time flows differently for the Luminari, she said with a small smile. We are patient. An awkward silence fell between them. For all they had been through together, Zephyr realized there was still so much he didn't know about her, and now he was leaving. Thank you, he finally said. For everything. For giving me a choice. Talia inclined her head. Safe journey, Zephyr Blackwood. May the stars guide you back to us when the time is right. As he boarded his ship and prepared for takeoff, Zephyr caught one last glimpse of Talia through the viewport. She stood perfectly still, her luminescent form a beacon against the crystal landscape of her world. The ship's engines hummed to life, but with a different note than before, clearer, almost musical. The crystal nexus fragment pulsed in sync with the power systems, and Zephyr felt a strange resonance within himself, as if some small part of him had begun to harmonize with Lumina's energy. Not a transformation, but a connection. One he could carry with him across the stars. As the ship rose into Lumina's violet sky, Zephyr plotted a course for Earth. But for the first time in years, he found himself already looking forward to the return journey. Some rewards, he was beginning to understand, were truly beyond imagination.